Okay, welcome everybody. So what we want to accomplish here today is to give you an idea, a good and well-detailed idea of what's involved in our Master's of Environmental Science program for those of you who are thinking about your options for graduate studies. So what exactly is involved, what makes up the program, what are some of the big benefits to the program, and then we'll get into some student experiences, great, and some nitty gritty about the details around how to apply and what you want to get, and then historically, Michael and others have been involved in this for a couple years now. Usually have a great number of questions, and that really helps us focus in on making sure that everybody has the information that they need. Okay, so presuming that most of you don't know that much about our Masters of Environmental Science program. Firstly, it is as if you were if you take this program full-time, it's a 12-month program. If you take this program as a part-time student, it's in the, it's up to you a little bit, but generally a lot of our students will do it in the kind of 3-ish year time frame, 2 to 3 years for a lot of our part-time students. There's some flexibility around part-time studies. The program is largely course-based, so it differs a little bit from like an MSc program in that there are much more kind of advanced level coursework in our program, and then a real focus on the development of professional skills and in the development of your ability to begin and make blossom a long-term career in the environmental sciences. So in our program, we have 3 fields of study. There's terrestrial and aquatic systems, conservation and biodiversity, and climate change impacts and adaptation. We're going to show a couple of slides from now, and we'll talk specifically about each of these. There are research and internship options. So if you choose the program, you will sign up either as a student interested in research, and we'll talk about that, or a student interested in internship, and we'll talk about that. I can let you know that roughly 80% of the students that are in program generally are internship students, and about 20% are research enrollment students. We have a lot of experiential learning opportunities. We're actually currently working on trying to grow these opportunities, and by experiential learning, we specifically mean things like skills development and technical skills development, hands-on type of work, and of course the internship and research involves both of those. Involve a lot of learning in the program that's based on experiences, not just in classroom settings. We have significant professional support. We have great staff. And then we have very specific staff. In addition to that, we have 3 dedicated internship staff, for example, that support just there for supporting students in this program around their internships and around the development of their professional skills in particular. In addition to great administrative staff that makes sure that this is constantly moving, and that students are taken care of, and that courses are being taken that are supposed to be taken, and et cetera, et cetera. We've always tried to promote a real sense of camaraderie and program community in the Masters of Environmental Science. The reason being, and it sounds like, okay, of course everybody's trying to be friends all the time or whatever. Remember, this is a 12-month program, so you're only here for a short time. Many of you will know each other and you develop friendships over time, but it's really important that you take this as one opportunity to build a larger network and a larger group of peers that are all kind of rowing in the same direction. But since it's such a short period of time that you're in program, we do have a number of things that we both fund and promote and try to develop throughout the year that bring people together in order to, if you're an introvert, we'll get you slightly extroverted. If you're extrovert, great, that's perfect. We'll get you into to making lots of friends. But there's specific things in this program to help move that along. And then we have a lot of financial support available. We realize this is a somewhat more expensive program than you would have at an undergraduate level. Much of the ways this works has to do with relatively short programs. So you're paying a little bit more money, but you're only there for a year. But we have multiple entrance scholarships, in-program awards that relate to financial need and academic merit, and competitions that Gisela will talk about and Julie will talk about later around Think, Shoot, Change, which is our video competition that we give away like $15,000 every year towards people who make really neat videos about the environment. And other types of financial support, including the money you make as an internship student and the money you make as a research student, which we'll talk about later. And then finally, of course, you're already U of T students. You already know that we have a great brand, including being known as Canada's top university for employability. And that really has a great long-term reputational attachment to what you're getting as a degree from us. This is what a year looks like. So if you're in a program for 1 year, this is what you're doing. You're doing all of your coursework, which for most students as a full-time option is going to be 7 half-credit courses or 7 one-term courses. These are going to go from the September to April period. In addition to doing all this coursework, you're going to be building cohorts and having a lot of events, having a lot of skills, professional skills development and training, working on your resumes, working on your interview skills, but much more in a specific sense around environmental science and the careers that are there. Through the winter term, if you're an internship student, you're going to be applying for jobs and interviewing and landing those jobs. And if you're a research student in PAS and CCIA, which are 2 of our fields, you're going to be doing directed readings course under the supervision of a professor. And then by the time summer rolls around, you're going to be doing your research or doing your internship. And then we have that period in April where we also offer additional courses around things like our field camps and our taxonomy courses, which are kind of short, intense, kind of full-time for a week courses where you learn, for example, about identifying a specific taxa of wildlife. So I'll start off talking about some of our fields of study, and then I'm going to pass off to Professor Smith to finish off before we talk about some of our internship things. So the Terrestrial and Aquatic Systems, I'm the director for that particular program, in addition to kind of overseeing the master's program overall. But in the Terrestrial and Aquatic Systems field of study, this is an entirely electives-based field. So there are purposefully no prescribed courses outside of our advanced seminar, which is something that every student in the class and the cohort has to take in any 1 year. A lot of students in this used to be our only field of study, so it's kind of like the general environmental sciences, but it has a much more specific place within environmental science. So a lot of things around contaminated sites remediation, consulting work, and certain aspirations for government work are all kind of in terrestrial and aquatic systems. And a couple of examples here of courses like management, environmental management, risk assessment, contaminated sites, brownfields. I teach an advanced hydrology and watershed management course, all sorts of different things that exist within this terrestrial and aquatic systems field of study. And then we have conservation and biodiversity as an additional field of study, which largely caters to students with biology backgrounds, especially students with some conservation biology background. Is a lot at the science policy interface. So there are courses like applied conservation and policy that don't just have to do with understanding conservation and wildlife and what you're trying to conserve, but the policy interface of this. What does the government do to do things? What kind of ways do we have to promote conservation? And there's a strong written and oral communication and just broad communication literacy component to the conservation and biodiversity field of study. So for this, I'm going to pass off to Professor Smith to talk about climate change and some of our research options.
Sure. Thanks, Professor Mitchell, and thank you all for coming tonight. I know there's a lot of Zoom things out there to do, and so it's great that you took the time to come here. So I'm the director of the Climate Change Impacts and Adaptation stream of our master's program, and so this program is basically designed to kind of address this emerging field of you know, identifying climate change impacts and helping stakeholders develop plans to adapt, and so basically becoming sort of, we are training students to become sort of a bridge between, you know, the fundamental climate science and all the climate modeling that's going on, of, you know, where we develop projections of how the climate's going to change in the future. And so the students are becoming a bridge between that sort of hard science and then the stakeholder on the other side who's interested in, you know, how many more heat waves am I going to have in my city, and how do I need to allocate my funding to figure out how many cooling centers I need, you know, going forward into the future. So, you know, the courses that we provide in this stream of the master's program help students to develop those technical skills and those decision-making skills around that bridge between the climate science and the stakeholder. So one thing, because there's some very specific skills around, you know, climate science, climate modeling, adaptation, that many, you know, students aren't really exposed to in their undergraduate program, we have a number of required courses in this program. So unlike the general stream, the Terrestrial and Aquatic Systems stream, where all the courses are electives, in the CCIA stream, we do have a lot of required courses. So that's kind of one of the differences. But the kind of, you know, motivation around that is to really make sure that, you know, we've got kind of all the climate background covered and you're ready to kind of enter the workforce with all the skills that you need.